Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. So, joining me today is Shauna Jenks. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, so excited to have you as well. Shauna, where in the world are you?
Where in the world? I am in the southeast corner of Idaho in the United States. So
Okay,
not too
okay.
far from Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton National Park. A lot of people know us or recognize where I live from there.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that's really cool. So Shauna, can you start by telling us who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Shauna Jenks, and I like to call myself a grit coach. So I'm actually an ICF Certified Success coach. But essentially, grit is really the area that I kind of reside in because it's kind of my mantra, I guess you
Mm.
could say, for my life. Um, it's something that I think it pushed me through a lot of hardships and obstacles in my own life. Um, but I didn't realize that that's what I was using. I didn't realize I was exerting grit to get through those things. I just kind of did it. And it wasn't until I started being asked the question, how do you keep showing up every day? And I really couldn't answer that for people, um, except for to say you just have to buck up and do it. You just have to pull up your bootstraps and do what you got to do. But when you're somebody that's going through a difficult time, or when you're somebody that has bigger goals than what you really can visualize accomplishing at that point in time, that's not really a very satisfying answer. And so that's when I really started to dig in and see if there wasn't a way that I could define how I actually did it. So that's what I did. It's
Mhm.
taken me a long time to like actually go through that process and see um, how I exerted grit and how I could actually make that a duplicatable blueprint for other people to do the same thing. Not just going through hardships, but individuals that are wanting to, and I particularly focus on women, really it's applicable to anybody, but individuals who are wanting something more for their life. So, I kind of have a story that's unique to a lot of different adversities. And so that really is how it was developed. That's how I kind of came to be. I like to call myself the grit girl. And I'm a grit coach is what I focus on. But I actually developed a program called Find Your Grit Factor. And that's essentially what it is to help build a duplicatable blueprint so that um, instead of exerting grit in the face of adversity because you're kind of backed into a corner, you actually learn how to do it at will when you want to make a significant change in your life, or you have something come up in life that really has presented itself as a big obstacle.
Mhm.
That's a bit about what I do. A little bit more about who I am. I am first and foremost a mom. I have 4 kids. 2 of them actually I adopted uh, back in 2013 when I lost my youngest sister.
Mhm.
And I was a single mom at the time. So I basically went from being a parent of 2, a single mom of 2 kids to a single mom of 4 kids overnight. I raised both of them for the last 8 years, until my nephew actually went to live with my other living sister. Um, but it was definitely a challenge, and I think it really defined who I am as a person. I've spent the majority of my parenting life as a single parent up until just the last couple years where I actually just recently got engaged. And I'll be taking on 3 amazing stepkids. So
Oh,
so
wow.
it's yeah, so it's been an exciting journey, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Oh, wow. That's so exciting. I'm sorry to
Thank
hear about
you.
your sister. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
it's
I
hard
appreciate
losing
that.
loved ones. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, mine. So much to cover.
I know. I have a plethora of stuff to
Mhm.
share.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
happy
that.
for you because I'm a single parent. It shows me that there is hope. Because
It
I,
is
I always thought, I still haven't found Mr. Right wherever he is at, but yeah, he's
it's a
somewhere.
challenging road for sure. I mean,
Mhm,
um, I think for me that was another area where I really had to exert grit. Um,
mhm, mhm.
as a single mom, I think a lot of times, I think in a lot of instances, we just want support and we want love. And unfortunately, sometimes that means we settle for less than what we deserve.
Mm,
And so, for me, it really was exerting grit to, clearly define my boundaries as to who I was and what I would and would not accept in my life. And
mhm,
then, who I think really I feel like I manifested or attracted the person just by really defining who I was and really getting um in touch with my own core values and what was the most important to me. So yeah,
yeah.
I appreciate that journey. It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
No, no, it's not. Yeah, thank you for sharing. What you just said might just inspire a single mom or parent listening because it's hard. There are so many myths within family, friends, coworkers, or society about single moms and their roles. And for me, I've been told I'm lazy, that I'm not doing anything, not an active member of society. These are just a few of the many things people say. And does it
Wow.
hurt? Yes, it does. But anyone who's facing that, I would tell them, don't let it define them. What would you say to anyone who's facing this?
Absolutely. I would absolutely say, I mean, and I think that you still are your own individual. You were gifted with your own unique, qualities and talents. Uh, you have the unique opportunity to parent someone. And even though it's difficult doing that on your own, in some ways it can be, I mean, in my opinion, in some ways it was a tremendous blessing because I would have rather had the opportunity to parent the way that I believed was in the best interest of my children, as opposed to settling, which I had. I was in a marriage that was really dysfunctional, really unhealthy, and I'm so grateful that I didn't settle for that,
Mm,
because I think that that not only helped build my character, but it's helped build my children's character.
yeah.
And I, again, defining my own core values and what was important to me,
Mhm,
and asserting grit, really digging down to the core of who I was and who I wanted to be.
mhm,
Um, it set an amazing example for my kids. And I mean, the one thing I would say to all single moms out there, you are leaders in your home.
mm,
Whether you know it or not, little eyes are looking at you. And it's usually not what is caught is not what is said, but it's the unsaid. It's the things that they see and the things that they watch. It's your actions. It's
mhm,
how you handle situations. It's your emotions and your attitudes. And that can be really challenging to always have control of.
mhm,
But from what I've seen, my oldest is now 26 and he's married and he's incredible.
mm,
Um, and that's coming through a lot of adversity.
mhm,
So I think just staying true to who you are and your core values and not settling, finding love within yourself. I know that sounds so cliche. You hear people say this all the time. You need to love yourself before you can love others, but I cannot even express to you how absolutely true that is.
mhm.
Um, because when you love who you are and you love your unique qualities and your talents and your gifts, um, it's a lot more difficult to settle for someone who doesn't appreciate those things about you.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
those are what make you who you are, and those are what your children look up to.
Mhm,
So I would just say, don't don't put yourself in a position where a title defines you or other people define you because you were created uniquely as your own person and you're here for a very specific reason. And
mhm,
once you harness that and you own it,
mhm.
you can walk powerfully through your life and it won't matter what other people think.
Yeah, wow. You know what you just said? People pay to see a therapist to say it to them.
Oh, well, I've
So,
seen therapists too.
yes, yes. So I thank you as a therapist to share and to help people in that sense. Don't settle and to love yourself. It's very true what you said because I used to settle. Why? I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be a single
Yeah.
mom while other people are getting married. Out of all my siblings, I'm the only single one. And it's been
Yeah.
that way for a very long time.
Mm,
And I used to settle. And I had to question what is love? It was never
Yeah.
modeled to me. So how am I supposed to know what it is and give it to myself and give it to other people? But
Yeah.
like you said, you got to go deep. Once you go deep, you love yourself. There's no turning back. Once people get a taste of that, no, yeah, yeah, there's no turning back.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I wasn't modeled love either. Like I never knew what a healthy relationship looked like.
Hmm.
And frankly, like my marriage, I was with somebody for 20 years, and I knew when I was marrying that person, they probably weren't the right fit for me. But I was really young, and I was in a situation where, I thought this is what you were supposed to do. You know, I grew up in kind of a religious community. And so, you have the proverbial day, and what they say is the measure of happiness in your life. And I did all that. Like I got married, had kids, went to college, got the degree, got the career at the place that, makes money and has amazing benefits. And I found myself absolutely miserable. And, when you haven't been shown how to love yourself because maybe your parents didn't even love themselves,
Hmm.
and there's so many people in this world that don't. Like, for me, it was really a journey of self-discovery, and it started by me looking in the mirror. And, um, when I completely severed all ties with my ex-husband, I realized a lot of my life had become a means to an end. I did have a great career. I did make good money. I did have amazing benefits,
Hmm.
but I was so unhappy, and it's because I had gotten so far away, from the core of who I am as a person,
Hmm.
that it was like I was lost,
Hmm.
and I was just going through the motions every single day. And so I decided to take a huge leap of faith and actually left my career to go do my own business, and ended up being very successful. But in the process, that's when my sister passed away. So life took a lot of unexpected turns, but throughout that entire time, I spent a lot of time just looking in the mirror and deciding, who am I? What makes me happy? What are the activities that bring me joy? What are the things that make me laugh? What are the things that make me smile? And so I started like inserting myself in those places, in those groups, in those activities. And once I did that, I started to realize I'm not as like alone as I think I am.
Hmm.
Like there actually are a lot of people like me that have similar interests and similar desires and similar goals. And um, when I found that, the need for having a quote unquote partner right by my side, it became less and less because I was becoming more and more fulfilled by just being with myself, if that makes any
Oh,
sense.
it does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. When we go through stuff in life, at times it's easy to think we're alone. I used to feel that so much. It was very painful, but over time I'm realizing that I wasn't. And connecting with people like you is where I find true unity and
Yeah.
community and belonging. Because when we're not alone, when we realize that, it gives us the room for growth and improvement and just a space to be who we are with those who may understand what we're going through.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And I think it's so important. I mean, it just helps you feel more fulfilled as an individual, but also I think it just helps give you hope.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
because when I was living a life, that was an ends to a mean, I just didn't have hope.
Mhm.
I was just waking up every day going through the motions.
Mhm.
And so I really celebrate people who are willing to take risks. I like to define like what I do as a coach. Excuse me.
Mhm.
I like to give people, kind of a visual of what it looks like of what I do as a coach, because it's the process that I went through. And I think it's a thing that so many of us find ourselves in. But imagine yourself standing on the edge of a canyon, and it's a deep canyon, and you're right there on the edge, and across on the other side of it is everything you ever wanted. But it's so scary to look at that and realize there's such a deep wedge in between where you are and what you want. And there's a tightrope that's going across to the other side. And all you have to do is walk. For some reason, we get so stuck in our head that life has to be a certain way. and that we have to do things a certain way. And then we start letting all these little comments and voices filter in our head from all the people surrounding us, the people that are standing on honestly, a lot of them are standing on that ledge right there with you, but they're so afraid to admit it to themselves that they would rather tell you what you're not doing right, or
Mm,
they'd rather, place labels on you. And so I like to, as a grit coach, like really, I'm the person that not only do I breathe belief in you enough to take that first step, but I'll walk behind you on that rope until you have the confidence to make it to the other side.
mhm.
Because I think that's what a lot of people are lacking. They just don't have that support. And I am 100% for therapy. I think therapy is an amazing tool. And I think that if you have struggled with traumas in your life, there is 100% a place and a time for that. And it is incredibly valuable tool to help you overcome, some of these stigmas that we get in our minds, or things that happen to us that were unfair that we didn't have any control over.
Mhm.
But as far as a coach goes, like it's the person outside, it's the person on the sidelines, it's the person like standing there with their hand on your shoulder telling you, you've got this, you
Mhm.
can do this.
Mhm.
And I think so many times in life we don't have that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even have it from our own spouses. I'm fortunate enough to be marrying somebody that gives that to me, but
Mhm.
it didn't come easy. It took
Mhm.
a lot of work on myself
Mhm.
and setting my own boundaries and not allowing certain things in my life to get to that point.
Mhm.
So, I completely understand everything that you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, you brought in important words, setting boundaries. Uh,
Yeah.
you know what? We still struggle with that. I think there are different levels to boundaries when we place them. Obviously, there are
Yeah.
healthy boundaries to protect ourselves and well-being, and so many of us struggle to set boundaries, especially with family members, with close friends, with
Right.
our kids. I think boundaries is a topic that we need to continue to talk about. It's not
Yeah.
just one word, it applies to every single area in life.
It so does. I
Mhm,
think that's interesting that you said that. We have to learn to set boundaries. I think it's for me personally, it was always so much easier to set boundaries with people. The further somebody was away from me, the easier it was for me to set boundaries. But the closer I let them in, the
mhm,
harder it became to set boundaries,
yeah,
especially like with family and friends. And I the business that I went to do that I left my career for to go and actually work in, I talked to somebody who kind of excelled to the top of it. And they said something to me that has never left me.
mhm,
Uh, and I think this is pretty common. People may have heard this before, but if you can't look at the five people that you allow to pour into in your life, the ones that you really listen to their advice, the ones that you turn to when you are facing difficulties and challenges, if you can't look at them and actually want to trade spaces with them,
mhm,
it might be time to look at getting a new support system. I
mhm,
mean, our kids obviously kind of go outside of that, but I think that was one thing that really resonated with me.
mhm,
And so I started challenging myself to find people that would pour into me, that would challenge me in a healthy way.
yeah,
And when I started doing that, I realized that not only was I capable of more, but it made me much more apt to set boundaries with people that I knew were going to cause problems with me achieving the levels that I wanted to achieve
mhm,
as a person, as a career woman, as a mother. And so when I did that, it kind of started to make it easier to navigate away from those people. And I found that my boundaries, we talk about setting boundaries as if it's the chore, it's this thing that you have to sit down and do. And it really is. But once you have applied it in your life and you've started to reconstruct, if you will, and kind of rewrite the story of who you are in this world,
mhm,
your boundaries really become more of a norm.
mhm,
And
mhm,
now you get to a point where you won't tolerate certain things in your life because
mhm,
you know that you don't deserve that.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I love that. I agree with you. I think boundaries is a huge topic that people
mhm.
need to continue to discuss and be aware of.
Yeah. And sometimes some of us, we stay in places that we no longer fit in. Could be
Yes.
in a certain group, being friends with certain people when we know they're really killing us with what's killing them. Could be toxic mindset, all of that. What
Yes.
are some advice you would give to anybody really who feels that they have to remain stuck and trapped and able to please other people?
Well, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? So I think that's why I started really, really focusing on grit, because I
Mhm,
was that person. And why do we stay stuck? I mean, we're not nobody can force us to be in a place, right? Nobody can force us to think the things that we think. Nobody can force us to say the things that we say, behave with the actions that we behave in. Um, it comes from a place of belief in ourselves and worth in ourselves, right? So I think when you're stuck, it's really just the fear of getting uncomfortable.
mhm,
And so a lot of us are scared of all the what ifs. We know even though a situation is bad, even though people are bad, even though or I shouldn't say bad, but even though, you're surrounded by a group of people that may not be the most supportive,
mhm,
it's comfortable because it's what we know. We don't know what it looks like to be in a situation where we're actually running after our dreams,
mhm,
where we're surrounding ourselves with people that may make us a little uncomfortable, not because they themselves are doing anything other than just expecting more from us.
mhm,
And so um, I think the best advice I can give is get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
mhm.
Because when you're uncomfortable, you're growing. When you're growing, it means you're stepping outside of a place that has kept you prisoner.
Yeah.
And that's where I think you find true joy.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I love that you said that
Mm.
because it hurts. It hurts
Yeah.
when we're growing, when the people we thought would be there, they leave. They criticize,
Yep.
they judge us, and they push us away even more. It's gonna hurt when we find our true callings. Not everyone's gonna like it or like us how we say it. Not everyone's gonna approve.
Right.
Again, it goes back to boundaries and know who we are. It's very dangerous when someone knows who they are. You don't want to mess with them because nothing's gonna blow out their fire. Nothing.
Right.
And that
Right.
can be threatened to some people. And that's why they
Right.
start losing their shit because, oh, okay, I see your game is up and this is how you're doing. That's what I've always wanted and this is how you're doing. I think people get jealous. They don't really say it, they show it.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I think there's a point where you kind of just have to accept people are going to be who they are. And if they show you who they are, then believe them. I
That's
mean,
good
you've heard
point.
that before. I love using analogies. I really do. I think it's a great way to like explain things to people. But
Mhm,
there's an analogy of crabs in a bucket. If you have a bunch of crabs and you put them in a bucket,
mhm,
they'll start to climb on each other to try to escape. And once one really gets to the point where it has some leverage and it may actually make it out, the other crabs will pull it back in.
mhm,
And in my own life, I've realized that the reason that that happens is because if I excel, if I'm in a group of people, whether it be my family, whether it be a group of friends,
mhm,
wherever it is, coworkers, whatever. If I'm in a group of people and I start to go play to a place that makes them uncomfortable, it forces them to look at themselves. And because that's not fun to do, nobody wants to do that. They'd rather turn to me and say that what you're doing is ridiculous or it doesn't make any sense or I can't believe you're doing that.
mhm,
Um, when I left my career, I was in the government sector. And I really do have an amazing job. And I remember when I left to go do a multi-level marketing company, which is like crazy, right? That's the number one risk you can do for anybody. So here I am leaving this job, making incredible money with incredible benefits, but I am miserable,
mhm,
like miserable. I've lost complete touch with who I am as a person. So they offered a voluntary resignation. And I, after a lot of thoughtful consideration and prayer
Mhm.
and calculated risk taking, I decided to go after it. I decided to take it. And I decided to go do this multi-level marketing company. And it was the first time in my life where I'd actually taken a chance on myself. I had spent years taking chances and risks on other people, people that I loved, my ex, um, family members, people that, I would have done anything for, but
Mhm.
I never put that kind of effort into myself.
Mhm.
And so I remember when I left, people were coming up to me saying, I can't, you're so brave. I can't believe you were doing that. I could never do that. I could never take that risk. I have a mortgage to pay for. I have kids to take care of. Well, at the time, I was a single mom. My ex was traveling, all over the country, and I
Yeah.
was really on my own.
Mm.
And I had a mortgage, and I had a car payment, and
Mm.
I had kids to take care of.
Mhm.
The difference was the mindset and what I believed in. Did I believe in them, or did I believe in me?
Mhm.
So I left, and I mean, excuse me.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's not something I recommend for everybody because it really, it was really one of the scariest things I've ever done.
Mhm.
But I left, and I was incredibly successful. Like I saw amazing success in the first 3 months,
Mhm.
to the point where I actually had matched my monthly income. Is that the norm? No, it's not the norm. But I think it's a testament to what happens when you really decide to just stop and get to know yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
and you start putting as much effort into yourself as you have into a lot of people or things that really didn't serve you very well.
Yeah.
And when I started loving myself and putting as much effort into myself as I did, companies I had worked for and people that I had loved in my life, it was incredible what I was able to make happen.
Mhm.
It's just getting that mindset to believe that you're worthy enough
Mhm.
of that commitment. That's the hard space.
Yeah.
That's the uncomfortable space.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. I've talked to someone else who also left their jobs, and it was a really high end paying job, and she
Yep.
wasn't happy. She wasn't. She took a risk like you did. And I don't think that everyone gets this, right? When you have a job that is not helping you grow or you're not enjoying
Yeah.
it, and if you're not growing or doing much out of it, then what's the point? Right?
Right.
Yeah, I think all of us should do things that feeds our soul and spirit, and through feeding, we can also feed other people and share it. So good on you for doing that. It's not for everybody.
No, no, it's not. And I think for me, like, my mom has a neurodegenerative disease, and she was basically disabled at the time. She wasn't able to walk any longer, and so she was in a assisted nursing facility.
Mhm.
And at the time I did that, I remember going and talking to her and saying, "Mom, like, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I have to use all of my retirement, that I'd saved up to like support my life because I failed miserably?" And
Mhm.
I will never forget my mom sitting there in her bed, incapacitated. And she
Mhm.
blew her hands up in the air, and she looked around, and she said, "Well, I'm spending my retirement." And
Mhm.
that just, like, it hit me hard, you know?
Mhm.
She'd worked all these years, and I mean, my mom, but she was a teacher, total admiration for her career and what she did for, literally thousands upon thousands of children.
Mhm.
Um, Total admiration for her, but she worked so hard. And with this idea that, with the dream, right? It's the you go to college, you get the job, you work, get the retirement, whatever, and then you get to live your life how you wanted it. But that wasn't her story.
Mhm.
And so I just thought, I can spend all this time and all these years doing something that I think is the right thing to do,
Mhm.
or I can take a risk and love myself enough to do the thing that I think is right for me.
Mm.
And it hasn't been easy. Has not been easy,
Yeah, yeah. No,
but
I believe you.
I don't regret it, not 1 ounce.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, I'm happy you don't regret it. As you were speaking, I get visual pictures. Um, most people at the end, if you ask them what would they change, and
Yeah,
the most common question is regret. Regret of not doing actually what they wanted to do. And
yeah.
I have so much respect for people like you who just go for it. You go for what you want and follow your dreams. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
mhm,
I appreciate that. And, not everybody doesn't have to look that drastic either.
yeah,
Um, I think that's a lot of, like, why I even developed the program that I did,
mhm,
and why I coach on grit, because sometimes it's just little tweaks. Sometimes it's asking for that promotion that you're too scared to ask for.
mhm,
Sometimes it's, going out there and even putting yourself out there if you wanna find somebody,
mhm,
but then having the healthy boundaries set to know what you will and won't tolerate in your life.
mhm,
Sometimes it's, uh sometimes it's really just having the capability of looking in the mirror and trying to decide who you really are and what you really want.
yeah,
And, for me, that really I think that was the defining theme of my life.
mhm,
Um, I always challenged myself, and I think that's where grit really came in. I feel like a lot of people assert grit. I think a lot of people look at grit as an ugly word. I think it's like it's grueling, it's hard, it's for me, it's actually it's an amazing word.
oh, I love it.
Um, for me, grit
I
actually
love
stands for
it.
God really is there. Like
Yeah,
for me, it's the foundation. It's faith in yourself. It's faith in a higher power. It's faith in something more than yourself
mhm,
to really see what you're capable of and then taking a chance on yourself.
mhm,
And I think people assert grit when they get backed into corners. Things happen to all of us, right? Life always takes a curveball, and sometimes it's a much bigger one for some of us than it is for others.
mhm,
Um, People lose jobs, people's health decline, people relationships fall apart.
mhm,
Um, money comes and goes. None of that stuff is a guarantee. None of it.
mhm,
And so I think people assert grit when they get backed into a corner, but if you can actually understand that you really are in control of your life, you really are a person that has the ability to make the choices. And if you have faith to back that up, you don't have anything to lose.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think grit, just kind of looking at that in a different light and understanding it really can be something that you implement when you want to,
mhm,
when you don't want to be scared to go talk and ask somebody for that promotion or that raise.
mhm,
When you find yourself extremely unhappy in a career that really isn't fulfilling you anyway, and you have every um, opportunity and all the ability in the world to go do something else that will fulfill you, you know,
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
you want to be fulfilled as a single parent. Like it truly, I think it really does define like who we are, and we get that choice every single day to wake up, and we get to, I know it sounds so cliche, but we really do get to wake up and decide, who do we want to be today?
Mhm,
Do I want to be a victim, or do I want to be a victor?
mm,
Am I going to be empowered? Am I going to wake up and own my life? Am
mhm,
I going to wake up and own who I was created to be?
mhm.
And you can do that in any space that you're sitting. You just have to make the choice to do it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. As single parents, there are lots of single parents who they give up on themselves. I used to be one
Yeah,
of those. They give up on their dreams. I used to be one of those. And they just feel that it's the end. Until this kid is 18, I'm
yeah,
just gonna be where I need to be. And they 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 exist. They're not really living. And
yeah,
my hope is, to let them know, hey, You're allowed to come back to life again and
Yeah.
live. Yeah.
I think it's a responsibility. Um, having been a single parent the majority of my parenting life, like
Mm.
your kids grow up, they go find a life outside of you.
Yes.
And it is a lot easier. And I know this because I did it, my oldest, unfortunately, you know, I mean, he's an amazing person, but he was raised with a mom who was really lost.
Mm.
I did all the right things. I had all the right, my picture looked really good to people,
Mhm, mhm.
but inside I wasn't in touch with who I was. And that he felt that. He
Yeah.
felt that. My younger kids, they've seen a mom who on paper, it's like, holy cow, you left it. You left this amazing job. You moved across the country. You can't,
Mm,
I moved to Florida for 7 years without knowing anybody down there. And then I came back just recently for family.
mhm,
On paper, a lot of things I've done probably don't make the most sense to people, but these kids, my younger generation of kids, um, they know what it looks like to believe in yourself. They
mm,
know that it's okay if you don't immediately go get this career that you're not even sure you really want.
mhm,
Like, they know that it's okay to take a little bit of risk on yourself. And so I think I think the advice I would give to single moms is or single parents is you have a responsibility to love yourself
mhm,
and to get in touch with who you are and to find your joy
mhm,
because your child is is being taught by you visually whether you want them to be or not,
mhm, mhm.
and they're learning from your actions. And it's like you said earlier, you weren't taught how to love yourself. Well, it's probably, I would challenge to say, did your parents love themselves? I know for me, mine didn't. I didn't, my parents didn't have true joy. And it's not that they meant to teach me how
Mhm,
to not love myself. It's not like we sat down and said, okay, Shauna, we're gonna have a course on how to not love yourself. But that's what they modeled to me.
mhm, mhm,
And I have seen the difference in my own life when you model what loving yourself looks like to your own children, when
mhm,
you practice self-care, when
mhm,
you do take time to put yourself first. And
mhm.
it isn't always easy, but it doesn't always have to be something drastic either. It
Yeah.
can be, I see art behind you.
Yeah,
It can be something as simple as that,
yeah.
you know, taking that time to just pour into yourself. And I know you said, you're working on, you know, building an art website and
Mhm,
actually selling your art. Well, that's you pouring into something that you have the talent and the love to do. And that when you do those things,
mhm,
you're so much more inclined to want to put your all and not to feel like you're obligated to it.
mhm,
Where I think sometimes, especially as a single parent, we feel so obligated
mhm.
to make up for the other half that's missing, to
Yeah.
make up for the other income that's missing,
Mhm,
to make
mhm.
up for the fact that the kids next door get to go on these amazing vacations. And I can't, I couldn't afford to do that for my kids.
Yeah, yeah.
But I found other ways. I found other ways that my kids are equally as happy, if not more happy, because they have these incredible memories of me being a joyful person,
Mhm,
um, where
mhm.
we did things that really, truly were in tune with just truly experiencing and loving life.
Yeah, 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 you're right. And our kids, they remember, right?
Do you
I
remember?
yeah, they do. I have memory as young as 5, right? Um, Thank you for sharing that because it's so easy to compare what another parent is doing.
Yeah.
It is a very dangerous trap, and I used to fall in that, and it was killing me because I don't drive, right? And when I see social media is can be very delusional, really.
It's the killer of all joy.
Oh, it is. And when I talk to people and then I see what they're posting, I'm like, I can see right through you, right? And doing small things with our kids. No shame to people who are doing everything they want to do, but there can be so much growth and joy in small things. Doesn't have to be big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's all about how you show up. I really believe that. It's all about how you show up.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if you show up fully present, in tune with yourself,
Hmm.
I think that that resonates so much further than if you just make something happen because it seems exciting or it's the latest thing that everyone's doing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. So you work with lots of women. You're a
Yeah.
success coach. What are some common patterns that you notice that most women are doing that are kind of hindering their success in life?
I think just stopping themselves before they give themselves the opportunity to start. I think
Ooh, yeah.
I think fear really is said social media is the killer of all joy. I actually think fear is the killer of all joy.
Mhm,
I think it's all the what ifs.
mhm,
I think that I think comfort
mhm,
is a big one. When you're making, when you're making good money and you have the job that people think is amazing, or
mhm,
um,
mhm,
you have the great the picture of your life looks amazing.
mhm,
You still aren't truly in tune with who you are. I think we get hung up on that a lot.
mhm,
Um, I had a client that uh, was travel nursing, and realistically, that's a really good career, and it's very much in demand.
mhm,
She just wasn't fulfilled, and so in the process of working with her, we spent 6 months working together. She was able to really get in tune with who she is and what she wants out of life, and now she's made a change and is actually doing something that's very much more in alignment with who she is. And
mhm,
although the change itself has been challenging, and there's a lot of fear that comes with change,
mhm,
being there to support her and walk her through that has been invaluable,
mhm.
um, because she's learned so much about herself. And
Yeah.
that process has allowed her to set her own boundaries,
Mhm,
to redefine who she wants to be in this world. And so I think that comfortability
mhm,
is where I see a lot of people get stuck.
mhm,
Comfortability and then comparison, like you said, that's a big one.
mhm.
What would it look like if I did this? How would people respond? Well,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you came into this world by yourself and you're going to leave by yourself. So
Yeah, 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 that's
other people's opinions,
true.
it's just not healthy to let them have so much weight on what you want to do.
Yeah, and sadly, that's how it is. It's something that we're programmed to do. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be necessarily taught. Our parents program us, siblings, wherever we are, even culture or society, government, wherever
Yeah.
we are programmed like robots to follow certain things, to do certain things, and we lose ourselves. We don't know how to program ourselves back to
Yeah.
health and success.
Yeah. That's what I help women do.
Mhm.
That's what I
Yeah,
help people do,
yeah.
you know, um, to realize that it doesn't have to be this way. There can be more.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
sometimes you just need somebody to help breathe that belief into you and help you gain confidence until you see it yourself.
Mhm, mhm, I agree. Give me a few scenarios of how you would work with a first-time client. Do you do Zoom? Are there booklets, or how do you help them?
Yeah. So I actually do, I have two programs right now. I have one called Find Your Grit Factor,
Mhm,
and that is a 6 week group course. Um, where we actually just kind of work together as a group. We work through a workbook that I've put together,
mhm,
um, really to help you kind of define what you want to accomplish and then
mhm,
build that roadmap on how to get there.
mhm,
And then I have another program, which is a one on one. It's called GLOW. It stands for Grow, Learn, Overcome, and Win.
mhm,
And really, the intent of the entire program is at the end of the 6 months, you would glow, because that is something that somebody asked me one time, what do you want out of all of this that you're trying to accomplish? And I just told them I want to walk into a room and glow. And
Mm,
that is truly what this is. I think a lot of um, people walk around lifeless. They're living life, but they're not living life.
mhm,
And so I want to really help support and encourage women in particular. I have a huge heart for women to
mhm,
help them be able to walk empowered in their space
mhm,
and truly for people to look at them and just say, wow, you are truly living the life that you want.
mhm,
Um, so those would be primarily the two ways. I do one-on-one coaching. And so if somebody is, or I do, just short, like 1 hour coaching sessions. If somebody's interested, they can reach out to me
mhm,
and we can certainly arrange something. But for
mhm.
now, those are the two avenues that I have.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's really cool. So where can my listeners find you?
So they can find me at gritgirltribe.com.
Mhm,
And I'd love if anyone is interested, I would love to send you, you can reach out to me either on gritgirltribe.com or you can email me at Shauna at gritgirltribe.com. And I'd love to send you the 7 ways to crush fear. There are just 7 methods that I used consistently over and over again to help me as I was working my way through difficult things or hardships
mhm.
or obstacles and still wanting to achieve the goals that I had set out in my life to achieve. So I'd be happy to send that to people.
Yes, yes, yeah. You can send it to me anytime.
Perfect. I will.
Because all of us face fears all the time. I have fears. I may not be saying them out all the time, but it's having the faith and ability to do thing in spite of fears. Do it
Yes.
afraid. I heard that phrase. Do it afraid.
Do it afraid. Yes.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Do it afraid. That has been my life, but it's paid out.
Yes, yes, yes. Do you have any final thoughts or anything we haven't touched on that you would like to share before we wrap up?
Um, I think just that, if something seems big or scary, if you have an obstacle that you're facing or an adversity that's come up in your life and it seems insurmountable, just know that you really are capable of amazing things.
Mhm,
Um, I believe that when you assert grit, you truly can accomplish anything you set your mind to. And like I said, I believe that grit stands for God really is there. And
mhm.
with faith as your foundation, there is nothing that you can't do.
I love that. Last question. What is the meaning of life to you?
The meaning of life is to wake up and truly find joy in the exact place that you exist.
Mm. Ooh, that one's gonna leave me thinking. I'm gonna
Yeah.
dissect that.
I've had to ask that question to myself several times, and I truly believe it's learning how to find joy in exactly where you stand.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Oh, wow. Because some of us are chasing tomorrow to find joy there. We don't
Yeah,
really live in the now or exist in the now. We're chasing dreams and goals and things in life that we're not even there yet. Some people are planning what they're doing next year. They haven't even
right,
gone through the summer. Not that it's a bad,
right.
yeah, I love
Well,
that.
the problem with that is that you look ahead too much or you look behind you too much, and a
Mhm.
lot of times you trip on what's right in front of you.
Ooh,
So,
yes, 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 definitely. Well, Shauna, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing and
thank you.
women. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.